Hello, friend. Isaiah chapter 61, verse 3 tells us that God is speaking to us and He says, listen, I'm going to give you the garment of praise to overcome the spirit of heaviness. And the spirit of heaviness there means grief, discouragement, being faint-hearted, being overcome by problems. And that speaks so much about today because we know what problems are. The world is on a shutdown, the world is on a lockdown. Without any guns being fired, without any armies marching, the world is under house arrest and people are in fear. And that leads to anxiety and depression. Anxiety and depression because people have lost loved ones. Death seems to be around. And there's bereavement. And there is unemployment. People can't work and running short of money. There are families which are hungry. And there's a sense of helplessness. There's a sense of, like, who do you blame? Because normally when there is a hurricane, you can blame the government for not responding properly. We've never been at a time where you just can't point a finger, really. Then there are the suspicions about who caused this. Is this China? Is this biological warfare? The vaccines, are they safe? Is there something sinister behind them? The Bible talks about men's hearts filling them for fear. And so the anxiety and the depression. If you know of someone who is going through that heaviness of spirit, they are overcome and now they are trapped in a state of anxiety and depression. Maybe you can go and share with them what we are talking about on this video. And maybe you are that person. Maybe you are going through a very difficult time. And this is just for you. This is God's way of getting into your spirit and letting you know it's not over. The shadows, the darkness, the cold night that you're in, that's not your future. It's just a process. You're getting out of this valley. David said, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, not though I live in, but though I walk through. In other words, I'm coming out of this. And I'm saying today, you're coming out of this. You're coming out of your anxiety and depression because it's not God's will. So you've got to reject it. Don't feel as though this is acceptable. This is a norm. This is the new normal. Maybe that's the devil's normal. Maybe that's other people's normal. But you have to tell yourself, this is not for me. I wasn't made to live in anxiety and to have panic attacks. I wasn't made to be jumping every time the phone rings and having to take sleeping tablets to sleep and just afraid of tomorrow and in a state of depression. Here are just a couple of things I want to say here. As I said, reject it. Don't be comfortable with it. Don't feel as though it's okay. It's dangerous to be in this state. It's not God's will for you. The Bible says, Jesus says, rejoice in the Lord always. Well, Paul says that here in Philippians. He says, rejoice in the Lord always. And he was in a prison. He was locked up in a prison when he said that. That prison did not have AC, didn't have a TV, didn't have a gym, didn't have a basketball court, didn't have 3 meals a day, didn't have any screens. It had rats and roaches, no flush toilets, darkness, no light, probably was in chains. He had every reason to be depressed and to be anxious and to be bitter. But he says, rejoice in the Lord always. And if you didn't get what I said again, rejoice. I'm happy, he says. I'm joyful. Why? Because he says, God is in control. So God says, hey, I'm going to give you a garment of praise. Praise. Praise for what you have. Thank God for his blessings. You say, what kind of blessings you're talking about? There was a bad famine in a country. People were suffering. This man had nothing else but 1 banana to eat. And he was hungry. And he told himself he's not going to go through the rest days in hunger and starvation and suffer. He's going to eat this last banana and then die. So he went out into the forest, found a tall tree, ate the banana, and his plan was to jump and die. But as he dropped the skin and was about to jump, he heard a whistling. And he's wondering, who is whistling? This happy whistle. And he heard footsteps, and he looked down, and there's a man walking along the same trail he was walking on, When a man saw the banana skin, he stopped, he looked around, saw nobody, picked up the banana skin, ate it, and went on singing, whistling. You know what? That guy came down from the tree. He said, wow, if somebody could be hungrier than I, so that they would eat a banana skin and still they are happy, I don't have any reason to kill myself. I can have hope as well. And so there are people then who are in a worse state than you are. The devil tries to make you feel as though nobody knows the trouble I've seen. I'm in a worse shape. It can't get worse. Hey, there are people who are in worse states and yet they are doing well. So you can overcome as well. And know that God is in control. I travel a lot. And I don't mind flying. I like flying. But sometimes when there's an air pocket, the plane begins to move. I mean, hey, up and down, bouncing in the air. And you see people getting nervous. You know what I do? If it's a jet, well, I can't do anything because you can't see the cockpit. But in the smaller planes, when I can look and see the pilots, two pilots up there, and they're relaxed, they're talking to each other, they're looking at their clipboard. I can even see them a bit laughing. I can see lightning outside, the plane is bouncing, but the captain is cool. I say, hey, if he's cool, I'm cool too. If he's not worried, that means everything is okay. Guess what? God isn't worried. God is in control. Take your eyes off of people. Take your eyes off of the clouds, off of the lightning, off of COVID-19. And the Bible says, as David said, I lift up my eyes unto the hills from whence cometh my help. My help comes from the Lord. And guess what? He ain't breaking no sweat. So therefore, be cheerful, be joyful. God is in control. And God is going to work something good out of this in the worst of circumstances. God does great things, even in COVID-19. So don't see it as a setback. See this as a time of transition where God is going to do something in you and through you that could not have been done otherwise. So this young guy, 17 years old, 18 years old, was very good. His brothers didn't like him. They were jealous of him because his father liked him better. And they hated him. And they sold him as a slave. I'm talking about Joseph, right? As a slave. So what did he do? In Egypt, he says, I'm going to be the best slave I could be. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to work good. I'm going to do my work as though I'm being paid $1,000 a week. And his master noticed and says, hey, bring that slave from the heart, son. I want a man like that in my house. He came in the house, did work. And he says, hey, this guy knows figures. This guy knows how to run the books. This guy, since he's in my house, things are happening so much better. He made Joseph the head of his house. Still a slave. And now the man's wife begins to chase after Joseph. He says, no, I'm not going to sleep with you. She tries to say he rapes her. He goes into prison. What does he do? Get angry? Become depressed? He says, no, I'm going to be the best prisoner. The man in charge says, hey, I want this guy at the top. He promotes him. And then, after 7 years, he's released. He goes into Pharaoh's palace because there's a dream that only Joseph can interpret. He interprets it and Pharaoh says, hey, I want you as a prime minister. The point is, the sufferings, the COVID-19 that Joseph passed through, instead of him becoming anxious and depressed, he says, I'm going to thrive. I'm going to let this storm be the winds under my wings. I'm going to soar. So through your COVID-19, through your marital problems, through your sickness, your cancer, your depression, God says, you give me a chance, I'm going to make you soar. You can overcome. I'm Pastor Phillip Gumbs of the Church of God, Holiness here in Angola in the beautiful Caribbean. Thanks for listening. God bless you. And may His grace be with you.